afternoon to hear another portion of His holy and divine word.
Amen.
I'm grateful this evening for this congregation, for the Prime Minister, Brother Hall, and all those that labor and work with him for having the foresight to put on such an event as this. Realizing that men are lost, we are trying to save those that are lost.
Amen.
Matter of fact, if you're visiting tonight, this meeting was pitched with you in mind.
Amen.
Hope that you would obey the gospel of Jesus Christ before it's everlasting and eternally too late.
Amen.
You're all going to leave here, we don't know when.
Amen.
The Bible says it is appointed unto man once to die. And after death cometh the judgment. And we want to make sure that when we leave here that we have, amen, got our house in order. That we have made our calling and election sure.
Right.
And the only way that we can make that an election sure is by being in Christ Jesus.
Amen.
Nothing else will work. Nobody else can help. No friend can help. The only one that's going to be able to be that perpetuation for our sin is Jesus Christ.
Amen.
And you know, in the long ago, even in the book of Isaiah, it was prophesied about Christ and about the church. And matter of fact, he talked about that. Matter of fact, Daniel talked about in the days of these kingdoms. That the God of heaven was going to set up a kingdom which would never be destroyed. It wouldn't be left to other people. But it's going to break in pieces and consume all of these kingdoms. And it is going to stand forever. And later on, when Jesus came on the scene and he began to talk about the church, and he began to tell his disciples about the church in the book of Matthew, chapter 18, and he told them, that, as a matter of fact, he asked them a good question. He said, who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? That's a good question. And he said, some said, John the Baptist, Elijah, Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. They really just didn't know it. And then Jesus said, but whom? He turned to Peter and said, but whom say ye that I am? Simon Peter said, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. He said, blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, or son of Jonah. For flesh and blood did not deliver unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. Watch this now. He said, upon this rock I will build my church. And I want you to know tonight, and he said that the gates of hell shall not prevail against it.
Amen.
I want you to know tonight, as I get ready to get into the lesson, that the Lord only builds one church.
Amen.
And salvation is placed in that one church. And if you're going to be saved tonight, you've got to be where salvation is. Does that make sense?
Amen.
In the day of Noah, salvation was in the ark.
Amen.
If you were in the ark, you were where salvation was placed.
Amen.
God has placed salvation in the church.
Amen.
Not any church, but in the church that Jesus built, the church of Christ. And so if you're going to be saved tonight, you have to be in the church that Jesus built. He's the only authorized builder of the church.
Amen.
Matter of fact, in John 15, he said, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husband. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he purgeth. In other words, he cleans it up, that it might bring forth more fruit. You know, it's a beautiful thing when you are where you need to be,
Yes.
and you're getting what you need to get.
Amen.
You know, some people argue that point. They say, well, you know, preacher, I hear what you're saying, but any church will do. I understand what you're talking about, but I just believe in them. They'll do like this. I just believe that I'm right. Well, let me just share something tonight. It really, and I'm being kind about it, it really doesn't matter what I think.
Amen.
And church, it really doesn't matter what you think.
Amen.
What matters is what did God say.
Amen.
That's what's going to matter.
Amen. Yes, sir.
Jesus said in John 12:48, he that rejecteth me and receiveth not my word hath one that judgeth him. He said the words that I have spoken, the same will judge him in the last day. So what's going to make the difference in the last day is, am I obeying God? That's what's going to make the difference. You know, sometimes people think that because they do a lot of good works, don't get me wrong, if you're doing good work, keep doing it. But I'm here tonight to tell you that good works won't save you. In and of themselves. Paul said he could give his body to be burned. Have not love, he said, it profiteth nothing. Jesus Christ is the door. He's the only way that we can make it into the kingdom of our Lord, of God. That's the only way. That's the only way. And you know, tonight, as I was thinking about the lesson, I was thinking about, and I told you the name of the lesson on Sunday, that it was going to be from the pit to the palace. And as I was thinking about the lesson, I thought about all the things that had happened in this particular story and how they were related, or how you could actually preach Christ from this story. And I'll get to that in a minute. You'll see it after a while. But it's a beautiful story. First of all, it starts out with a gentleman in the Bible, and you all know it. His name is Jacob. God changed his name to Israel. He had 12 children. He was, matter of fact, Jacob had a twin brother, Esau. Y'all know this story. Isaac and Rebekah had twins. And God, and matter of fact, Isaac blessed Jacob. Y'all know the story, right? I got to go through that. But Esau didn't get the blessing. Right. And ultimately, Jacob had 12 boys. 12 of them. You know, he had Judah, he had Reuben, he had Manasseh, he had Simeon, he had Gad, he had Asher, he had Naphtali, he had Levi, he had Issachar, he had Zebulun, he had Joseph, and then he had Benjamin. And this story that I'm dealing with is coming from Genesis chapter 37, and really you have to read 37 all the way to 41 to get the whole story. We're not going to read all those chapters tonight, but I want you to know where it's at. Right. But what we're going to focus in on tonight is that next to the last boy, is that all right? Next to the last, we're going to talk tonight, we want to focus in on Joseph. And we want to look at some of the things that were happening in his life. And sometimes, you know, things happen in our lives and we don't always understand. You know, somebody said that we live events in life going forward, but we understand events in life when we look back. You know, you don't always know as you move forward why things are happening the way they're happening. Sometimes it's weird. You know, sometimes we say, well, Lord, I'm going to church. I'm giving like I'm supposed to give. I'm praying. I'm worshiping. I'm treating everybody right. Why are these things happening to me? You know, sometimes we just don't understand. And you know, in this story, Joseph, God had gave him a dream. God gave it to him. And Joseph, being a young man, he's about 17 years old now, he's a teenager. He told his brothers about his dream. You would think that when you go to your family, when you go to your kinfolks, that they would understand and celebrate with you. Amen, with your dream. But the Bible says, when you read that, the Bible says they hated him even more. His dad, that is Israel, Jacob, gave him a coat of many colors. Again, his brothers, they didn't celebrate that with him. They hated him for that. And then ultimately, and I want to move through this section real carefully, because there are 3 stages in his life that I want to deal with. I want to deal with, first of all, his dreams. Because his dreams is what's got him into the pit. Then I want to move over and I want to talk about his discipline. because his discipline is what got him in the prison.
All right.
And then I want to talk about his determination, because his determination is what got him into the palace.
All right. Come on.
So first of all, let's deal with this pit. Because we've got to understand that whatever we're dealing with, and we all got some pits now. I want to back up and reiterate that we all gonna have some pits in our lives, but there are some. But when you're in the pit, just remember that the pit is not your potential. It's not a place that you want to stay in. It's not a place you want to hang around with, but it's something that you're going through. And remember that when you're in the pit, that the pit, that when you're down and out in the pit, in other words, when you're down to nothing, I need for you to remember tonight that God is always up to something. When we're down to nothing, remember that. God is always up to something. We don't always know what it is. See, when the Mennonites, and it was the Mennonite people that came through, the caravan of Mennonites, when they came through, if they had just veered 2 miles off their course, they wouldn't have got yours. But you've got to understand that God's providentially was working things out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now remember, the scripture says in Romans chapter 8 and 28 that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord. Now, I need for you to understand, the Bible says, it didn't say all things will work to your good or to my good, but it will work for God's eternal good. That's what we have to see. And everything that happens in our life is not necessarily good. I don't call getting thrown in the pit a good deal.
Come on.
I don't call, matter of fact, I don't call when your family members you know, and I got to deal with that pit committee just a minute. You know, sometimes we have pit committees who are plotting and scheming and going behind your back and scandalizing and trying to get you in a situation. His brothers had plotted it out. And not only, if it wasn't for Reuben, they were going to kill him. They were going to kill him. He said, no, let's kill him. Just throw him in the pit. We're going to put some animal blood on this coat of many colors, and we're going to take it back. What are they doing? They lying. We're going to take it back to our dad and tell him that a wild animal, a wild beast got him. So understand something. When you're going through your pit, folks will lie on you. Family members will forsake you, treat you bad. But you got to know and just remember, when you're down to nothing, God is always up to something. And so when the Mennonites got him, and you know what? Let me just say this. Well, I want to make this point too. Everybody don't celebrate with you when you have a dream, or you have, I'm just going to bring it on home, when God has given you a gift. You would think everybody would be celebratory for you, happy for you.
Well,
everybody don't celebrate with you like that. Remember that. Remember, and not only that, remember that whatever God has given you, hold on to it.
Amen.
Those that control the pain of the now don't control the pleasure of the future. And your reaction to others in the pit determines God's reaction to you in the pit. So while you are in the pit, don't get bitter in the pit. Don't get discontent, but just hold on. And when you're in a pit, Satan may use the closest person to you to hurt you. Remember, Demas hurt Paul. Remember, Judas hurt Jesus. Remember, and you can never win a spiritual battle logically. Sometimes God has to strip us down, all the way down, to get us to the palace. Amen. Somebody said sometimes God got to mow our grass. so we can see the stakes.
Well,
See, sometimes we got to get broke down in order to get where we need to get. Throughout the Bible, it has happened all through the Bible. Remember Moses? That's not a story about Moses, but just remember Moses, after he had killed the Egyptian that was treating his Hebrew brother bad. God allowed him to go with his father Jephthah, and he stayed out there 40 years tending sheep. What was God doing? Getting him ready. Do you see that? So sometimes when you're going through something, you may not necessarily see the end result, but just remember, and don't make it a pit of offense. Don't be offended. If you could open the door it could open the door for the devil to do more destructive work in your life. Don't make it a pit of offense. And then the road of life, you know, sometimes it's smooth. And then sometimes you hit some bumps in life. But remember, if God brought you to it, Lord have mercy, he'll surely bring you through it. Remember that. Now, if he brought you to it, he'll bring you through it. And not only that, but some heavy trials come along. And you say, God, what is going on? Why am I in this pit? Why am I going through what I'm going through? Remember, God is able to do above and beyond that which we ask or think. And listen, when God places a dream in your heart, don't let a pit stop you.
Amen.
If God has given you a gift, don't let a pit stop you from doing that which God has given you to do.
Amen.
God has blessed you with the gift of singing. Just because you got a pit committee that's scandalizing you and talking about you, you sing. Keep on singing. God has blessed you with some monetary things, and you're doing what you can for the church. Keep on doing it. Pit committee gonna keep on talking, but you keep on working for the Lord. Don't worry about the pit committee. Just do what God would have you to do. Is that all right? Then not only that, but Joseph, he didn't realize it, but Joseph was right in the middle. When Joseph was in the pit, he was right smack in the middle of God's plan.
Amen.
Right in the middle. Right in the middle of God's plan. And you know, and if you're in a pit tonight, just keep waiting on God. Just keep waiting on God. And he has a way out. And when you come out, he has a plan, he has a purpose, and he has an idea for you in this life. Remember that. And not only that, but listen, sometimes pits are necessary.
Amen.
You know, I know growing up, we none of us like getting corrected. No, I did. That was the worst thing that could happen. You know, getting disciplined. We call it getting a whooping. I don't know what you call it. But, you know, I'm telling you, we're living in a world now where psychologists and sociologists are teaching folks that corporal discipline, that is whipping, is not necessary in the rearing of children. But I want to refer you to one scripture.
Amen.
The Bible says, and I need for us to understand the vernacular of the word, because the Bible says if you beat it, but it's not talking about child abuse.
Amen.
It's not talking about child abuse. It's not talking about just beat them like that. But if you beat your child, the Bible says that you will save his soul from hate.
Amen.
I know folks, and psychologists will say, psychologists won't teach that. A lot of times when kids like, oh, what are you talking about that for? You know, but when they teach that, they're instilling an attitude of people feel like they're entitled. They're instilling we instill an attitude of entitlement in our children. I don't want to get too far off on this, because they feel like they can do whatever. We're teaching them how to behave when we don't correct them when they do wrong.
Amen.
That's what we're doing. So I don't want to get too far from that, but my point is that when Joseph was in that pit, sometimes a pit is necessary. If you never felt pain, how will you know that God is a healer?
Amen.
If you never went through difficulty, how will you know that God will deliver you?
Yes.
If you never had a trial, how will you know that God is a comforter?
Amen.
If you never had any trouble, how will you know that God can rescue you? If you never were broken, how could you know that God could make you whole? If you never suffered, how would you know that God could bring you through? If you never went through the fire, how could you ever become pure? If you gave your all, in other words, if I gave you all power, if God gave us all power, then why would we need Him? We need God in life. We need Him to make it through whatever we're going through in this life. Then it brings us to this idea of prison. Well, I tell you, Joseph was second in charge of a man named Potiphar. He was living in Potiphar's house. And he had, matter of fact, the man entrusted him with everything except his wife.
Amen.
But that just makes sense, you know, man not going to give you his wife, but he gave him charge over everything else.
Right.
And Joseph, watch this now, was faithful to Potiphar. He was faithful to Potiphar. But this is how sometimes the devil can get in. And what happened was, somebody said the wife was dreaming about the dream. She began to have thoughts about Joseph. Bad thoughts. Thoughts that she shouldn't have. And she asked Joseph, young Joseph, to lie with her. Joseph, being the young man that he was, he said no, he refused. And when he did that, you know, matter of fact, not only did he refuse, watch this, brother, he ran. I want that to soak in a little bit, because sometimes you may have to run from a situation. And he ran away from the situation, and when he ran, she cried out. Modern day vernacular would be rape. That would be the modern day translation of what would have been said. But she cried out. And when she cried out and accused Joseph of something that he didn't do, watch Potiphar. Now, this is how the devil can get in. Joseph hadn't done anything. Potiphar was his friend. But sometimes the devil can get in it. And even though you hadn't done anything wrong, can turn your friends against you. And Potiphar, being the man that he was, and wanting to vindicate his wife, allowed Joseph to go to prison. His discipline got him in prison. Church, wherever you are, and whatever you're going through, stay faithful to God. Stay faithful to God. Stay faithful when folks think you ain't faithful. Stay faithful to God. And even if it seemed like you're standing there, and I'm sure, I don't know his mind, but if it were me, I would be standing there saying, I ain't done a thing wrong. Why am I going to prison? Why am I in this kind of trouble? And as a result of his discipline, it allowed him to go to prison. Church, we have to be disciplined when it comes down to our worship. When it comes down to serving God, we have to be disciplined. I'm just going to focus on one area. We have to be disciplined when it comes to time. We disciplined everywhere else. Man say be there at 7 o'clock. We there at 6:55. 5 minutes early, you know. But when it comes to God, we need to be disciplined. When it comes, I said one area, let me get one more area there, brother. When it comes to our, let's just say our service to God, we need to be disciplined. And when I'm speaking of service, I'm talking about physical and spiritual. If it's my turn to open the door, I need to be where?
The door.
I need to be disciplined. I need to have my clock set. I need to make sure that I got gas in my car. I need to make sure my clothes ready.
Amen.
I need to be ready to go to be able to get here and do what? Open up the building. Turn the air conditioner on. Cool it off. Ain't that right?
Amen.
And that's just the physical side. Now on the spiritual side, we have to be disciplined. Even on our jobs, when we're dealing with people who are hard to deal with. I mean hard to deal with. Hard to talk to. I had a young man today, I don't call his name, but he was hard to deal with. I had to count to 10, pray and everything on that young man. Because sometimes folks just hard to talk to. And you cannot allow folks to determine your behavior.
Amen.
You give them the button, they'll push it every day.
They will.
You walk in, they just lay on your foot.
Yes, they will.
They will. And so you have to be disciplined enough to ask God, God, give me strength so that I won't act indifferently from what you would have me to act.
Amen.
And so Joseph, he had discipline. And you know, and I'll tell you, when you discipline yourself, there's a benefit of being disciplined. I didn't get into the money aspect. I didn't talk about it because y'all know that's going to take a little time. But just a synopsis of that is that when it comes to money, we have to be disciplined.
Yes.
You know, we can't, and let me just get into secular. We can't get every credit card, charge it up, 26% interest and all that kind of stuff. And then we come in, I ain't got nothing to give. Well, we ain't got nothing to give because we were not what? Disciplined in our finances. Amen. And I got to say this. You see, God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Watch this now. And God sends his rain on the just as well as the unjust. Now watch this and watch the application. If an unjust man, we talk about old Joe Blow, Willie Reed, I don't know, whoever, you know, not doing right. But he got enough sense to save his money.
Amen.
Well,
He saved his money, you get him a car. We look at him and say, he ain't doing right, he got a car. He's working every day. Oh, he's doing other stuff, but he's working every day. Saved his money, got a car. I'm a Christian. I'm working every day. I got 5 credit cards, 26% interest, and I'm broke as Joe's turkey. Why should I be mad at Willie Ray? Willie Ray did what he needed to do. And therefore he got the results. Another example. If you plant something, if my brother go out and he plant him some collard greens, and Willie Ray go over here and he just look at his garden, he just ain't doing nothing. Grass growing and everything. My brother has some great collard greens and Willie Ray mad at him because he got, if Willie Ray plant greens, guess what he'll have?
Green.
God sent his rain on the just as well as the unjust. And so I Lord have mercy. You know, some of us want the palace. We don't want no pit. We sure don't want no prison. But we want the palace. We want the palace. But I'm here to tell you tonight, no cross, no crown. All of us got a cross that we got to bear. All of us are going to go through trials and tribulation. All of us will face difficulties in our lives. And the way we handle the difficulties in our lives determine how we are. You know, when he was in prison, and y'all, he didn't just stay in prison a couple of months. He stayed in there approximately 3 years. That's a long time. After the first year, that was a baker and that was a butler. And guess what God did? They had a dream. And they came to Joseph. And Joseph, through God's ability now, interpreted the baker and the butler's dream. The baker didn't make it. Butler was restored. And you know what the butler told Joseph? He said, I'm going to remember you. All right. 2 more years went by. Ain't heard from the butler. Can you imagine that? Just think about that.
That's what they do.
You have done what you're supposed to do, even in prison. Now I didn't tell you this, but God gave Joseph favor in prison. That's something we have to remember. No matter what kind of difficulties you're in. Many of us may be going through that prison mode now. Because we've been disciplined, because we've been doing what we need to do, because we have stood up for the Lord and the church. Maybe family members don't like us because we think we're the only one going to heaven. That's what they tell us. You may have that in your house. I don't know. But you have to stand firm on your discipline. Amen. So you may be going through a prison type experience right now. And so Joseph, the man forgot it. Can you imagine that? He helped him. And he forgot it. 2 years went by. Just imagine sitting in there for 2 more years. I don't know how long we've been out in our pit, and I don't know how long we've been in our prison. But I just want you to know tonight, hang on in there. Wait on the Lord.
Amen.
God got his time. And there's a reason for everything. I want to share with you tonight that because of Joseph's experiences, it built him up for what he was getting ready to get. Sometimes we are not ready for the palace. And God got to get us ready for the blessings that he want to give us. Sometimes he give us a $1 million, brother, we just lose our mind. Do you see my point? Sometimes we're not ready for it. Sometimes we're not cognitively ready. Somebody say, give it to me, I'll use it right now. God knows us. He knows our heart. He knows how we are. And he was preparing Joseph. He prepared him in the pit. Let him know. It doesn't matter. Family, friends, they'll turn their back on you, but just stick with me.
Amen.
In Potiphar's house, he remained faithful to God. And no matter what friends may do, they might turn it, but stick with me. In prison, when you help folks out, other prisoners, they might forget about you, but stick with me.
Amen.
He stuck with it.
Yes, he did.
Lord have mercy. Pharaoh had a dream. God working this thing out. Pharaoh had a dream. And you know, the butler, I remember 2 years later now, I remember Joseph. He called Joseph. Y'all know the story. He dreamed of 7 lean cows, 7 fat cows, and the 7 lean cows ate up the 7 fat cows. Same thing with the wheat. And Pharaoh, he had all kind of, he had all kind of astrologers and all kinds of folks around him. They couldn't tell him. And Joseph, by the grace of God, told him, he said, Pharaoh, what that means is they're going to have 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. And the 7 years of famine are going to eat up the 7 years of plenty. You know what Pharaoh did? Pharaoh, Lord have mercy, promoted Joseph. Made him second in command of all of Egypt. For him to go and build those big, they scholars say they found those grain pits. Big old grain pits to store all of that grain so that they could have food during the 7 years of famine. Watch this story ain't over yet. It ain't over yet. You know, and when you get, watch this, when he got to the palace, Joseph, because of all the things he had gone through, he didn't lose his mind.
He didn't.
He didn't forget who he was.
Amen.
He didn't forget where he came from.
Amen.
He didn't act like Mr. Big Shot.
Amen.
He knew who he was.
Yes.
And lo and behold, just as God had said, his brothers come in. Oh, this is where that Christianity shows up. The same ones that threw him in the pit. The same ones that lied on him. Now they are coming. And just as God said, they bowing down. They didn't realize who he was. They didn't realize he changed over the years. They didn't realize. And Joseph had to contain himself. You know, he one thing he asked, he wanted to know about his little brother. Where's Benjamin? Where's Benjamin? How's Benjamin doing? You know, come back. You come back. And they came back and they brought Benjamin the next time. I'll fast forward a little bit. He gave him grain and then Joseph revealed himself to them. Now what he said to them is something that we need to really, really hold in our mind.
Amen.
He said, he forgave them, first of all. He said, because you meant it for evil.
That's it, brother.
He said, but God
Amen.
meant it for good.
Amen.
You tried to hurt me. But God was working this out all the time. See, remember when people are doing you wrong, treating you bad, remember, they may mean it for evil.
Amen.
But God, don't you like that conjunction, but? But God meant it for good.
Yes,
And God worked it out. And you know, as a result, God made it. And see, the story doesn't end there. It goes on because through Joseph, all of the lineage of the children of Israel came into Egypt.
Yes.
And they were able to survive, and God blessed them, and they became a mighty nation.
Yes, they did.
Right there in Egypt. And you know, the last part, I guess I need to go on to the last. You know, Joseph, just before he got ready to die, he said, when y'all leave.
Amen.
Now that's a powerful statement because a lot of stuff happened before he left. He said, when you leave, take my bones with you.
Yes, he did.
He didn't say, if you leave. He didn't say, if y'all can get, he didn't use any expression of that. He said, when you leave.
Amen.
Take my bones with you. And y'all know the story, and I'm not going to go through Pharaoh and what he did, Red Sea and all of that, but ultimately, Joseph, looking forward in time, recognized that God was going to bring them out.
Yes.
And he did.
Yes.
He brought them out.
Yes,
This
he
story is so forbidden. Because in this story tonight, I can see Jesus. I can see Jesus because the Bible said he came to his own. And his own received him not. Just like Joseph. I can see Jesus in this story because he didn't have a coat of many colors, but my Bible says he had a robe. They took his robe. Cast lots on him. Or he didn't go to a physical prison, but my Bible tells me that he went down to the Hadean realm.
Yes.
And he set the captives free.
Yes.
This story looks so much like Jesus.
Yes.
Or he didn't go to Pharaoh's palace. My Bible tells me he went to heaven.
Amen.
God said, is that all right?
Yes, it did.
He said, all power in heaven and in earth has been given unto me. Go and preach the gospel to every creature. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved.
Amen.
He that believeth not shall be damned. I can see Jesus in this story.
Yes.
And I understand tonight that no matter what you're going through, just know that we have an advocate with the Father.
Yes.
We have somebody who can get us through our pits.
Yes.
We have somebody who can get us through our prison and ultimately get us into the palace.
Amen.
Now, I know in the offset of this lesson you're thinking about physical palace. But let me tell you something. You and I, we look for something a little bit better than that.
Amen.
Jesus said, I go to prepare a place for you. If I go and prepare a place for you, he said, I'll come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. Whether I go, you know, and the way You know, Thomas said, Lord, we don't know we know not whether thou goest, and how can we know the way? That's a good question.
Yes, sir.
Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man come to the Father but by me. If you're here tonight and you are going through things, understand that Jesus can get you through it all.
Amen.
Or he can get you through your pits. He can get you through your prisons. And ultimately land you right in the palace. Is that all right? How do you do it? How do I come to Jesus? You come by hearing the gospel. It's the good news about Jesus Christ, how he died on the cross of Calvary for our sin, was buried in a borrowed grave, rose again the third day according to the scripture. These are the facts of the gospel. It's the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Believe that with all of your heart, repent of your sin. Confess the sweetest name known to mortal tongue. I believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Be willing to be buried in baptism for the remission of your sin, and the Lord will add you to the church. Mark 16, 15, 16, Acts 2 and verse number 38, Acts 22 and verse number 16, Galatians 3, 26 and 27, for as many as been baptized into Christ, got put on Christ. If you're here tonight, I don't know where this lesson may find you tonight, but wherever you are, just know Jesus can, and he can save us tonight. While together we stand and sing the song of encouragement, won't you come?
588.
God bless you tonight. I hope and trust you gained from the lesson from the pit to the palace.
Oh, yeah.
Any question on anything that I preached tonight, the Bible can stand for itself.
Amen.
Stand investigation. If there's no question, it's evident that I preached the truth.
Amen.
This time we back in the hands of good and faithful preacher.
Amen.
Brother Humphrey.
I don't know about nobody else.